Don't you hate it when aquascapers show you this brand new, newly set up planted aquarium that looks amazing, but then they never do any updates because in reality, it's so much harder making it look good in the long term. Hi, my name is Irene from girltalksfish, and on this channel, I'm happy to expose all my mistakes to you so that you can learn from them. And that's why I want to talk about this 10-gallon aquascape that I set up a year ago. Now, this aquarium has been set up since 2018, primarily as a breeding tank. So I've bred honey gouramis, cherry shrimp, platies, you name it. The thing is, I didn't show it on camera a lot because it usually looked like a total mess because I was more focused on growing babies and not plants. But in 2020, I thought to myself, you know, there's no reason why I can't have a nice looking breeding tank for once. So I decided to set up an aquascape that had this triangle shaped layout using sagewood and pink granite, and then really easy plants like narrow leaf java fern, dwarf sagittaria on the ground, as well as Anubias and Nana Petite kind of glued to the driftwood. So if you missed that whole setup video, I've got a list of everything I used and how I did it over here. So the first problem I encountered was, at the time I was trying to breed Apistogramma agassizii, and so I was feeding it lots and lots of live baby brine shrimp. And somehow that caused some kind of weird fungus to start growing on the substrate and kind of on the front glass as well. So no problem, you can just gravel vacuum it out, right? Well, whenever I would do that, 24 hours later, it would grow completely back. And then the second thing was, every time I stuck my hands in the tank to do tank maintenance, the Apistogrammas would freak out and basically eat all their eggs. So it was just a really bad combination of me not being able to do a lot of water changes and then the tank looking super terrible. So in the end, I just ended up rehoming the Apistogrammas and decided to try something completely different. The second issue I had is this light over here is a little bit too bright and was starting to cause some algae issues, even though I had the time lowered all the way to like 5.5, 6 hours. And unfortunately, the ceiling is too high, so I cannot hang it from the ceiling. And maybe I should have looked into some custom-made 3D printed light stands to raise it up a little bit. But the route I decided to go with instead was floating plants. I was thinking the extra cover provided by the really thick roots and their ability to suck out the extra nitrogen compounds that come from overfeeding this tank would be really good for a breeding tank. And yeah, it actually shaded out the algae and caused it to go away. However, yeah, the floating plants, they tend to grow crazy fast and out of control. And if I wasn't completely on top of this tank and constantly removing the excess growth, basically they ended up shading out not only the algae, but also my dwarf sagittaria, causing them to melt. Great. Eventually, I got a group of pygmy corydoras, which are there right now, to breed in this tank, but at first they were incredibly shy and they always hid all the time, so I made the decision that I was just gonna let this aquascape go and become the thickest, densest jungle basically possible so that they would have more cover and then hopefully feel more comfortable spawning. The other thing was, since I'm doing kind of colony breeding where I allow the babies to grow up with the adults in the same tank, I wanted to grow a really thick layer of mulm and microfauna in the substrate so that the offspring would have lots of yummy stuff to eat right when they were born. Again, not the best look for an aquascape. In fact, I currently have tufts of blackbeard algae growing on the driftwood, which I don't really mind because the pygmy cories actually sleep on them like little fluffy pillows. In fact, there's been one there the whole time we've been filming, and I think it's absolutely adorable. So I would say my main two takeaways from this aquascape / breeding tank experiment is, number one, I just do not have the time to maintain an aquascape right now. They take a lot of maintenance. I'm a busy mom with 2 young kids, so obviously they take the priority. And all my aquariums right now need to be low maintenance, which is why I don't mind that this breeding tank ended up devolving into a jungle, because all I have to do is basically add water directly from the sink faucet, and then every once in a while, maybe a squirt or 2 of easy green fertilizer, and that is it. I don't even like adding root tabs, which is terrible because that's another reason why the dwarf sagittaria isn't looking so hot right now. The second thing I learned is I feel like the goals of aquascaping versus breeding fish don't always mesh. completely well. And so, you know, unless you're breeding something super easy like live bears. So in my case, when push comes to shove, I personally like breeding fish more than aquascaping, and I am more than happy to have a nasty looking tank if it means I'm gonna get some cute little baby pygmy cories. Totally worth it. So now that I have my priorities on straight, I don't foresee myself in doing any fancy aquascapes, at least in the near future. And in fact, since I accomplished both my goals of setting up an aquascape and breeding pygmy cories, video to come soon, I'm actually planning on taking this aquarium down that I've been running since 2018. Don't worry, it's going to be replaced by a new aquarium. It's a size I've never kept before. I already know what kind of bulletproof plants I'm gonna put in it, and then I just gotta wait until the warmer spring season so I can get one of my coworkers to mail me the fish for my next breeding season. Comment down below if you have any guesses what that fish is, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!